Well, the bastards finally did it. They actually listened to us and gave us the show legally outside of Japan. September 7th has gone down as a pretty damn important date, as we now finally have the debut of the 40th Kamen Rider season. Kamen Rider Zeztz! Greetings and bienvenue, everyone, and to all those who haven't heard of me, I'm Didge, a huge toku nerd, and I really want to ramble about this new series, as I have been really keen on seeing how the first season to be aired outside of Japan, simulcasted, is gonna go down, especially after the banger that was Ga. Now, the lead up to this show was a bit odd for me. I mean, this season has big shoes to fill after last season, as the idea that Gav would become my new favorite season was a damn shock to me. So I am hoping to God that Zeztz sticks this landing, especially since, at this point, it is Yuya Takahashi's 4th time being head writer. And while I never got a chance to make a Geats review, I'll admit, the first 3/4 of that season were pretty damn solid, but kinda dropped off around the end. I can only hope that the new advanced schedule will help to make sure that audience reception doesn't affect the show's writing as much as it did Geats. But regardless of Yuya Takahashi, there were still a lot of things that many people were trepidatious of. The teaser, for one thing. Let's get the elephant out of the room now. I am a huge AI hater, and as someone who does voice acting as a hobby, subtle plug, and has been getting into art a lot lately, I have been pretty against the use of AI, and its use in the first teaser, in the backgrounds, was a pretty hard pill to swallow. And only time will tell if this is a case of the production team being rushed, or if this was a sign for future bad things to come. But regardless, I was cautious. As, well, I'm not a hater. Takahashi being the head writer was enough to piss off a lot of people. Not to mention the controversies of the Belt voice actor, and a second season in a row where they had a minor play an adult character, and in this case, a love interest, which was already weird in Gav, and it's weird again in Zeztz. Seriously, why are they doing this? Then, there was the release schedule, which was probably the biggest thing for a lot of people, as, look, I'm a dirty little Kiwi. I was so fucking stoked that we got a way to watch this show legally. But, dear God, the fact that it took fans bullying Tokusatsu and Toei to make the live streams loop, since people have jobs and the time zones of these streams were kinda ridiculous, and weren't even available in a lot of countries, made it so that it was way more complicated for a lot of fans to really give this show a shot, in spite of the efforts that they made. So a lot of my hype for this show became watered down with a lot of doubt. And then, the live stream happened. So I decided to watch this thing the minute it aired, and I was kinda glad I did it, because I got to see how much people were losing it. And the reactions in the first go were pretty solid. The first scene alone turned so many heads, and the chat was going damn crazy. They hit a home damn run. And off the bat, I'll say, I like the spy motif they're going for. Pretty unique, especially when conjunction with combining the concept with the whole materializing your dreams. It's a fun concept to play on. Especially since I feel that, because of the spy motif, they're gonna have an excuse to go hard out on the action, especially with all the Bond references. As we can kinda see that director Kazuya Kamihorichi has already shown a damn good understanding of cinematic flair with the opening scene. Genuinely shocked me to see actual gun choreo in a Rider season, even if the bullets and the first fight scene were all a fake scenario. Those intro credits as well, using the bullet casings for the names. Solid. I love the fact that they just used that first scene to really establish an incredibly high note off the cuff and really set an incredible first impression for a lot of people. And I'm hoping that the standard is kept for more than just the first episode. It's interesting as well that they decided to make the very first scene out of suit as well, since we really get to see what they can do even before the main character gets a chance to transform. It does seem that with these unique concepts of dreams and spies, they're going to have a lot of story elements to work with, and how they can manage it with the MC's fight against the nightmares. Which, speaking of the MC, the main character, Baku, which real subtle reference to the yokai there, is an interesting one to talk about. He has delusions of wanting to be a spy, but in reality, he's kind of a drifter. It kind of makes comparisons to Goju Wolf there. And he seems to mix a lot of tropes from prior Rider seasons into a unique amalgamation of a new character. He definitely embodies the idea of being selfless in spite of harrowing odds, but with his Deno levels of catastrophically bad luck. But he does also have a lot of earnesty to him. He's kind of like Ryuki, but also has the familial bonds of Tycoon, which is a nice contrast to his personality in the dream world, where he's this highfalutin, showboating, overconfident type with the cowlick boner, which really makes me reminisce over Build and Geats, especially with that cocky personality he maintains. I love to see how the actor, Ryutaro Imai, can play up the dichotomy between these two roles as the series goes on forth, and maybe see if that personality shift truly is a facade. He also really acts well with his foil, the younger sister, who feels like she's kind of the equivalent to Tycoon's older sister in this show. And it seems that she's pretty much meant to be the anchor to ground Baku's delusions of heroism, since while he is an earnest man, it seems that he's literally incapable of thinking about himself before he helps other people, because he's constantly putting himself into danger. Despite being a trouble magnet so damn strong, he got a damn meteorite to hit him, and he still somehow survived. She'll probably do more as the show progresses, but I guess so far she needs to kind of be there to remind him that he ain't built like Gav. Truck-kun is not going to isekai him, it's going to drown him in medical bills. I really like how Mikiyagi portrays that built-up frustration he has over years of loving her older brother, but understanding that he is someone who does not know how to take care of himself first. Especially when he was trying to save that kid. She is sitting there just chastising him, not out of hatred, but out of concern for his health, since she wants to respect him, but he's very clearly making a fool of himself in her eyes, despite the fact that he's doing these things for a very noble goal. Which, on that note, it's insane that they showed a child kidnapping as the thing that rolls off the plot. God damn. I can only hope that they actually do follow up on that, because that's an insane way to get the ball rolling. Getting back to the characters, it's also important that we mention the police department, since I feel that these guys might have a pretty interesting part to play within the whole narrative, especially as we have Tetsuya, the police chief, who's already at least somewhat aware of the conflict against the nightmares, and he is constantly at odds with the more pessimistic policewoman in his squad, Nasuka, the pessimist denier of the nightmares, despite all the supernatural instances. Fun fact, Nasuka is played by Rina Onuki, a character that you might recognize in Kamen Rider Geats. She was Lopo. And it seems that she might be a bit of an important character as the show goes on, since we know that her kicks are something to be aware of. Real subtle joke there, Toy. And I can only imagine how her world will shatter once she's eventually made aware of the nightmares. To be honest, the nightmares themselves in this show so far haven't really done anything. I mean, there was the main monster who sat there and kidnapped the main character and nearly killed him, but we don't really know too much about the motivations of the nightmares just yet, beyond the fact that they're mainly just there to take over people's dreams and corrupt them. The only guy we really get a lot of dialogue out of is that blackjack-looking motherfucker who just kind of sits there just mocking to the camera the whole time. So I can only imagine what the series will eventually do with these guys once we know more about them. But I've talked enough about the characters. I really want to talk about the general direction of this show and the dream world sequences. Generally, really damn solid. There was a lot of cool sets with that endless corridor and the Persona Velvet Room where the Zero decides he's gonna speak English and just hands Baku the belts. The editing between these things as well was also pretty damn good in spite of all the stream delays I had to deal with. The transitions between each room as Baku was desperately trying to find his way back is just so seamless. To be honest, it's astounding that they even used AI in the trailers when they had such good effects and CGI. Again, imagine this was probably just rushing and timing for the teaser, but some of these shots are pretty damn good. Like, the nighttime Fies-esque shots are really good highlights, as the glow-in-the-dark suit alone is already pretty fucking peak, but the damn scenery and the framing is so good that I was struggling to find a thumbnail for this video. The fight scenes as well are also pretty damn solid, and I can only imagine how varied the choreography is going to be, and we get to see more of Baku transformed and in his other forms. Which, side note, I really love the fact that he's an Agent Number 7, like Bond, he's Reiwa Season Number 7, and his finisher uses lucky 7s, since his Dreamworld self is meant to be this lucky guy in comparison to his unlucky, uncharismatic self in the real world. I'll also mention the fact that his belt was given to him at the brink of death is enough to make me wonder how much of the dream world's influence is going to affect him in the real world. I mean, sure, we know that his belt is permanently attached to him after the end of the first episode, but I want to know, did he die before getting that driver? I mean, they make a huge emphasis on his heartbeat when he first transforms, so I can only imagine that what would happen if his belt or his heart was compromised. While we're on the topic of the belt, really like this thing. It's pretty neat. Using the original Typhoon as the basis was a pretty smart idea, and I like the fact that they decided to modernize it with a slightly flashier look. I do find it interesting that they decided to change the placement of the belts to be more of a diagonal chest belt instead of being on the hips. But I do love the voice lines. The Mesamero and the Good morning are still stuck in my head to this day. It's literally convincing me to get the toy in spite of the fact that it's going to be a bit of a hassle, not to mention those clear plastic straps are a little concerning, even if it is an adjustable belt. The capsule gimmick as well is also a pretty nice inversion of how the Typhoon works, by being a kind of portable Shinken disc that you can flip with your finger, kind of like the propeller in the Typhoon. I also love how the actual powers of the individual capsules and this kind of homage to the form changing of Kuga with those different colors but similar suit designs, but having the auxiliary powers of Gav with certain powers being locked to certain suit forms. Meaning that we might actually get form changes that stay relevant throughout the show and don't end up being kit bashed for a V-cinema later. I think it helps as well that those suit designs are also fairly close to the original suit design, which off the bat is really damn sleek. The choice to not have anything in the belt is a little awkward and does feel a bit empty, and those red clown shoes are a little kind of funny. But the sleekness of the suit and the lack of extra armor is really solid, since it means that all you really have to worry about is the color distinction between the suit and the belt between each form to differentiate them. And I think that that's going to help it in the long run have form changes that are going to be much more based around being situational. And not to mention, the lack of armor itself is probably going to allow for much more nimble choreography, as there's a lot less blocking the suit actor, which is especially notable since the previous season Gav had damn good action throughout the entire show. So I am hoping that they set the bar about the same. Speaking of comparisons to Gav, I'm not a big fan of the theme song as much as a lot of other people are. Look, Gav's opening theme song was unique and different, and I loved it for that reason. Visions, on the other hand, while Knocked Vane are great artists, I think kind of loses me in the first half before it eventually drags me in by the chorus. And I love the chorus, I just think that the intro is the hardest part for me to like. But beyond that, the show has a lot of expectations to go through, since I loved Gav, and I can only hope that they stick the landing for this show. I'm going to stay stuck with the show simply because of the fact that this is going to be a monument to this franchise, and it's also a huge test of this fandom's ability to go through on their promises. We have for years wanted a legal way to watch these shows, and now it's finally our time to make do with our promises. This show not only has the burden to carry of being a season that has to air in Japan, but also several countries worldwide, and we need to make sure that there are eyes on this show. Off the bat, there was 11K people watching this show at the premiere, so I can only hope that this number goes up as time goes forward. Especially since this is also an anniversary season, so this is already having a lot of expectations to manage. Look, whatever you guys do, remember, we need Toei to have our voices heard, and we also need to make sure Tokusatsu is able to make this show as easily accessible as possible. So whatever you do, make sure that we can follow through on these promises and make future Kamen Rider projects easier to watch. On my end, however, I'll be talking about Zeztz in batches. To avoid the problems I've had with previous seasons and copyright issues, I'm going to try focus on reviewing episodes in 5-episode batches so I can get much more concise reviews about everything that's gone on about the show in a while. So while that's happening, I highly recommend you guys, as much as I hate to urge you, to subscribe to this channel and ring the notification bell. I'm also in the process of making a Gav review, so stay tuned for that, as well as Gav Abridged, where I'll be playing Longo, so check out Marcusatsu's channel once those episodes drop. This is going to be a pretty important time for all us Kamen Rider fans, and I can only hope the next year is going to be a damn good one. So, until then guys, adios!